Pod people, and happy Halloween!
Ooh.
Welcome to the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru. I'm Teresa.
And I'm Tim.
And together, we're going to walk you through Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing okay. I'm still really excited about the new Wheel of Time TV show, so yeah.
Yeah. All right, before we get started, we just want to remind you that this is a reread. So we assume that you've read the entire series and there will be spoilers. You have been warned. So Tim, what are we going to be doing in today's episode?
Today, we have one of our rare 3-chapter episodes. We catch up with our 3 bands of characters as they travel towards Whitebridge and Caemlyn. Let's start with chapter 26, which is called Whitebridge, and the icon is Tom's harp.
Here's a quick summary of chapter 26 to act as a reminder for those of you who are not reading along with us. Rand, Matt, and Tom sail into Whitebridge, and it's time to get off of Bail Doman's ship. Matt is growing increasingly cynical, and Tom is surprised and relieved that they made it without a mutiny. Both Matt and Tom are starting to doubt that the others have survived, but Rand is convinced that they will find their friends alive and well. As soon as they are docked, Doman throws Flor and Gelb off his ship. He has not been blind to the threat of mutiny and tries to convince Tom to stay aboard and sail down to Ilion with him. He gives them their money back and promises Tom more besides to keep the men's minds off how hard he works them. Tom considers it. There's money to be made down south, but Rand says no and drags Tom and Matt away. They go to an inn at the main square, and Tom definitely pumps the innkeeper for information. We learn that the false dragon Logain has been defeated by Aes Sedai, and they are taking him to Caemlyn to see the queen before taking him on to the White Tower. We also learn that a messenger has been dispatched from Ilion to proclaim that the great hunt for the Horn of Valere has been announced, and all the hunters are to go to Ilion to swear the oaths. Rand notices the effects this has on Tom and impatiently interrupts with questions about his friends. Tom irritably gives a rough description of the others, and the innkeeper's demeanor completely changes, and he asks them to leave. He admits that 2 others have been asking after the people that fit this description. One, a crazy man, and the other can only be a Myrddraal who will be back. Tom is even more convinced that they should take Bail Doman up on his offer and sail to Ilion, away from the Myrddraal. They argue, and things get tense, with Matt thinking of pulling out his dagger. But then they realize that Gelb is on the other side of the partition in the common room, telling anyone who would listen that he's been done dirty by dark friends, accusing Bail Doman and, of course, Rand, Matt, and Tom. They manage to sneak out of the inn, and Matt confronts Tom about why he's going to such lengths to help them. Tom explains that he lost his nephew Owen to trouble with Aes Sedai, and he wasn't there to help him. Now he doesn't like seeing young men mixed up with Aes Sedai, and he's trying to make up for his failure to help Owen by helping them. They are about to leave Whitebridge when the Myrddraal spots them, and they are done for. Tom shoves his instrument cases into Rand's arms and tells them to go to the Queen's Blessing in Caemlyn. He charges the Myrddraal, knives flashing, screaming at them to run. They flee Whitebridge and don't stop until they simply can't run anymore. Rand wants to go back for Tom, but Matt is certain that he's dead. They start down the Caemlyn road, now truly alone.
We open this chapter with more lessons for the boys from Tom. And we find Matt is an excellent juggler, but really kind of sucks at playing the flute.
Yeah.
It's like Matt's good at keeping things in the air for some reason. It's kind of like, I guess it's his thing.
Yep.
Maybe, possibly.
The boys start to consider for the first time that their friends may actually be dead.
Yeah.
And there's a couple different places in this chapter where they have to really confront that possibility. Matt, because he's being influenced by the dagger, is really cynical these days. And he's sure that they're dead and that he and Rand are alone. But Rand refuses to even entertain that possibility.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, nope, I'm not thinking about that. They're alive, they're fine, they're going to be there. We're good.
He's totally holding on to hope.
Yeah.
Bail Doman gives Tom a refund for their fares.
Right.
When they get to the end and they get to Whitebridge. But the coins from Moraine aren't part of that refund in the bag that he gives him. He gave them the equivalent amount. That's just minus the coins.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Which will be important later on because, Moraine can't track them through the coin bond.
Right. In this chapter, we're starting to see how valuable a Gleeman is.
Right.
People are offering Tom work in payment for his services. Like, Doman offers to pay Tom to sail down to Ilion with him because the Gleeman keeps the men's mind off how hard he works them. And then later, the innkeeper offers Tom work because he'll draw a large crowd and a lot of business if he performs in the inn.
Right.
And so there's definitely money to be made. And it kind of sets it up in future chapters when we see that Rand and Matt can survive on the road by utilizing the skills that Tom taught them.
Right. Because, like, Tom even mentions, I think at some point, that
you never know.
Like, even if you don't get paid money, at least it's a meal in a room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is what Rand and Matt need.
Right.
While they're traveling to Caemlyn. They need a place to stay and they need some food.
Right.
So
Tom chooses an innkeeper who can tell them all the news in town. He just kind of looks around and he knows exactly what
it's in the main square. Like, everyone, no matter how they entered Whitebridge, has to pass through that square. So he chooses an inn in that main hub.
Right.
Because whatever inns are in that section, those are the people that are going to know all the news, no matter where it came from.
So the news that we learn, the two main things that we hear are the first is that a false dragon has been captured by the Aes Sedai and been taken to Caemlyn to be seen by the Queen.
Right, and that's Loghain. And
right.
We'll obviously see him later.
Because, they're going to take him through Andor. They have to stop by the Queen and say, look, no, really, we captured him.
Yeah, I think they're stopping at all the major cities. They're parading him basically on their way up to the White Tower, stopping everywhere where there's major people or rulers.
Right, it's a show of might. Hey, we are Aes Sedai and we are actually doing this thing.
Right, but since we're in Andor, all they care about is Caemlyn and Queen Morghese.
Right. So the second thing we hear is that the hunt for the horn is being proclaimed. Now the hunters are called to swear an oath in Ilion.
Right.
The innkeeper is both prejudiced against the Aes Sedai and expects them to take care of Loghain.
Right.
I've always found it interesting that even though people hate Aes Sedai for meddling in the world, when it comes to a man who can channel, they're ready to support them anytime one pops up. It's a weird thing that fear makes people do strange things. And I think sometimes our hatred is fueled by our dependence on the thing we hate.
Yeah, true.
Because if you're dependent on an Aes Sedai and you hate them more because you're dependent on them.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. So instead of waiting and letting Tom handle everything, Rand, clumsy farm boy, opens his mouth and asks the innkeeper about strangers passing through, hoping that he's seen their friends.
Yep.
And this sets the innkeeper on edge, and he clams up. I swear these boys will never learn to keep their mouths shut.
Everything was going fine until Rand opened his mouth.
Yeah, like Tom had it in hand. And I mean, I understand, Rand sees the glint in Tom's eye when he's thinking about Ilion, and Rand doesn't want him to be distracted. He's like, no, we're here for a reason. But it's like, come on, dude, just keep your mouth shut. Seriously.
Yeah.
So we find out that two men have been asking after the same people, or people that fit the description. And the first man is described like this. About a week ago, as near as I can say, a Weasley fellow came over the bridge. Crazy, everybody thought. Always talking to himself, never stopped moving, even when he was standing still. Asked about the same people, some of them. He asked like it was important, then acted like he didn't care what the answer was. Half the time he was saying as he had to wait here for them, the other half as he had to go on. He was in a hurry. One minute he was whining and begging, the next making demands like a king. Near got himself a thrashing a time or two, crazy or not. The watch almost took him into custody for his own safety. He went off toward Caemlyn that same day, talking to himself and crying. Crazy, like I said.
So this is Padan Fain.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting little tidbit. We got an email from Sarah, who lives in Sweden.
Hi, Sarah.
She let us know that the word Padan means the toad in Swedish. And I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly, because I have a hard time pronouncing English correctly, in case no one knows that yet. But so Padan means the toad, which is cool. A great little bit of trivia and totally applicable to our horrible villain Padan Fain.
Yeah. So thanks, Sarah. That was neat. All right, so here's the deal with Fane. We've mentioned that he was marked as the Dark One's hound, but we didn't really explain what that meant. So the TLDR version is that he was taken to Sheol, had his mind distilled, and then given very strong compulsion to seek after the three boys.
Right.
He can't help it. He has to track them, even at the expense of taking care of himself. And we see throughout the book that he gets more and more disheveled and raggedy. Mm-hmm. When the boys went to Shatter Logoth, he had to follow. And Mordeth tried to take him over so he could finally escape the city. But because of how Fane's brain had been altered, Mordeth couldn't completely overwhelm him.
Right.
So they ended up merging together instead. So sometimes Mordeth is in the driver's seat, and sometimes Fane has control. And that's why his personality flip-flops so much when he's interacting with other people. Like between acting like a king, like he's got all the confidence in the world, or acting like kind of like cringy and
cowardly,
anxious, and like he's crazy. So it all depends on who has like wrested control in that particular moment.
Yeah, they got a little confusing for me in the very beginning, but once we figured out what was going on with Pat and Fane later on in the book, like going back, things make a lot more sense now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll see more evidence of this, especially in the second book.
Yes.
Where it's more obvious the difference between who's in control, and as Mordeth is able to take control more often.
More. Yeah.
Yeah. But so that's the deal with Fane.
So the innkeeper describes the second man who was asking about the people, and it's obvious that it's Myrddraal.
Yeah.
He is understandably freaked out by this. I mean, he wants Tom and the boys out as soon as possible. They're the ones that this guy's looking for, and he doesn't want that guy coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Which makes sense. And he also mentions that the Myrddraal talked about a white-haired Gleeman.
Yeah.
And so Tom is completely shocked. This is the moment when he realizes that he's in this. He's not just periphery anymore. He's been linked to whatever is going on with these boys. And that's why he presses so hard to go to Ilion. He's like, oh, crap. They know about me now. I don't want to do this. Let's go to safety.
Yeah, because, how many white-haired Gleemen are there?
Well, I mean, he knows that he's going to be involved, you know?
So, Dagger Matt. Mm-hmm. Yay. He's starting to take Matt over, which is interesting. We got Mordeth and Pat and Fane fighting for the same body. And now we've got Dagger Matt, who is fighting a different battle.
But basically the same. Like, in both cases, it's the evil of Shatter Logoth.
Right. And his suspicion and paranoia are getting ratcheted higher and higher. Mm-hmm. So at this stage, we're still getting glimpses of the old Matt shining through.
Right.
He says, he's talking to Rand, and he says he's on edge with all the drama. And then he apologizes to Rand for being a jerk. Well, sort of. Mm-hmm. But he's still trying to make the effort. And I kind of feel for Matt in this position.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, he's a dumbass. He probably shouldn't have taken the dagger, but
definitely.
But he had no idea this was going to happen to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Matt asked Tom why he's bothering to go through all this trouble with them, and we get the story of Owen. And this is Tom's biggest regret, at least up until this point. So Owen was Tom's nephew, and he could channel. The Red Aja got wind of him and hunted him down and gentled him without going through proper Tower procedure. So this was part of the unpleasantness of 20 years ago that we'll hear about. It gets mentioned a few times throughout the series, and this was part of it. Men who are gentle don't usually last very long, so within 3 years, Owen was dead. And while all this was going on, Tom was a court bard for Queen Morgase in Caemlyn, and they were also lovers. And so Tom was too busy because he was wrapped up in political intrigue with Morgase and trying to, secure
the throne.
I can't remember if she'd already secured the throne. I think she had, but there were plots to kill her and all this different stuff.
Right.
And he was just trying to further her cause.
Right.
He was wrapped up in politics and espionage and so he was too busy to help Owen. And then when he finally did leave Caemlyn to help, it was too late and Owen was already dead.
Right.
So he thinks that if he can keep the boys safe from Aes Sedai schemes, that it in some way can help make up for failing Owen.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, it's his biggest regret. It haunts him. It motivates him. And to Tom, like he's trying to make up for Owen when he charges the Myrtle. Like that is what motivates him to do that.
Right.
To sacrifice himself.
Tom Merlin, badass extraordinaire. Fade comes just striding through the crowd like nothing. And Tom surprises the Fade, unleashes his knives, and then full on tackles him before he can even get his blade out.
Yeah.
Like, that old man, he's old, but he's deadly.
He absolutely is. We see that many times over.
Yes, we will.
So the boys are both pretty sure that Tom's dead. But he did give them a destination.
Right.
So they're headed to the Queen's Blessing in Caemlyn.
And that wraps up chapter 26.
Yep.
So because this is a 3-chapter episode, we won't have our usual jokey sponsor spot. Sorry, I know a lot of you guys love it.
Oh, sad.
So we're going to charge right along into chapter 27, whose title is Shelter from the Storm, and the icon is the leaf.
All right. Pairen, Egwene, and Elias are still with the Tuatha. Pairen is on edge with the slow, leisurely pace of the traveling people, but despite the fact that Elias is out of place in the camp and distasteful of the way of the leaf, he doesn't want to move on. He talks of hard days ahead and taking a rest while they can, and that something is telling him to stay for now. Pairen worries that they're going to bring trouble and danger to the Tuatha if they stay too long. Meanwhile, Egwene is immersing herself in the culture. It's all music and dancing and good food. Pairen is introduced to the enticing way the Tuatha women dance, and he's all blushes and embarrassment, which amuses the women and makes them want to dance for him every night. Even Egwene tries to learn the dance, which is a little more than Pairen can handle. He confronts her about spending too much time with Aram, asking if she's given up on going to train to be an Aes Sedai, and tells her that the people are not safe with them there. She tells him that whatever is going to happen will happen, and that they should find their joy while they still can before the trouble comes. Not wanting to fall too far under the spell of the people, he flaunts his axe and his grumpiness. He has nightmares about the camp being attacked and having to witness the slaughter, as no one raises a hand to defend themselves. His awareness of the wolves grows stronger, and so does his denial of their presence in his mind. One night, he dreams of Baalzamon, who mocks his wolf guard and sets the wolf on fire. He then sends a raven to peck Pairen's eye out. Pairen wakes to Elias, telling him that the time's come. Not only are Elias and the wolves agitated, but so is Rain. He can sense trouble in the air and wants to change direction. The people come to say their goodbyes, and Aram tries to convince Egwene to stay. She refuses, despite his arguments, and after some ceremony, they are able to leave.
Pairen is so frustrated by the slowness of everything.
And he really is.
And like we get this little line that says, any suggestion that they might go further or more quickly was met with laughter or perhaps but would you make the poor horses work so hard? I like this idea. I mean, seriously, sleep in, get a late start, stop for lunch, maybe go a little further, and then play music and dance at night. It's just all so charming.
It is. I really love the traveling people. They're just wonderful. Okay, so Elias feels that there is something that is keeping him with the traveling people.
Yeah.
But he doesn't elaborate. He says that it's a feeling he has and that it's important. And I was really trying to figure out what this something was. I did some research. I couldn't find anything. I didn't find any theories. But I was thinking about it. And so I'm wondering, do you think that because of his connection to the wolves, it's a similar thing to like when animals can sense an earthquake coming? Like some sort of instinctual thing like that?
You know, I hadn't thought of that. Like,
yeah, because like dogs and cats, like animals in general, they can tell when like there's a big storm coming or when there's like a disturbance in the forest. Like they know. I don't know what it is, but they know that something is happening. So do you think that's what it is?
You know, I thought Jordan was trying to do something similar to like, you know how in Lord of the Rings, like people can sometimes feel the eye of Sauron on them. Like maybe he was trying to do something like that.
I mean, that's definitely a possibility because in the next chapter, that's basically what Moraine is saying, is that the eye of the Dark One is on the world or whatever.
Okay, but that just seemed a little. Yeah, I like your theory a lot because
because Elias can't channel.
Right.
So where it makes sense that people who are attuned to the source can sense things, it doesn't necessarily make sense why Elias can.
Right, but he's got his wolf thing. So, and then Pairen isn't feeling the same thing, not because he doesn't have the ability, but because he's trying to block the wolves out.
Right.
He's actively resisting it, so he wouldn't
and
sense
also
it.
It's very new. I mean, this has only been like a week. Like he wouldn't be attuned to that yet.
Interesting. I like your theory.
It's possible. It's also possible that it's completely crap because Rain was looking at the sky and sniffing the air, and he was able to tell that something was going on too. So I don't know. There's something happening, but I was just wondering if, because Elias was feeling it before Rain was.
Right.
I thought maybe it could be his animal instinct coming out.
I like it. It's a good theory. If our listeners out there have any ideas, feel free to
let
let
us know. Email us Podthru@gmail.com and let us know what you think this mysterious something is all about. So Pairen is extremely on edge.
Right.
He's having a Wiggins because he's feeling guilty for endangering the traveling people. He knows that the danger isn't over, and he feels terrible about repaying their hospitality with risking their lives. And I can understand both sides of Pairen and Egwene's discussion. Because Pairen is right. The longer they stay, the more danger they're putting the traveling people in. And it's not fair. It's not right. It's a bad thing to do. It's not fair to risk their safety. But at the same time, I totally get Egwene's perspective because they do have a lot of hard days coming.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to rest and enjoy life as much as they can. You know, they deserve what fleeting happiness they can find before they have to get buried in fear and anxiety and go running for their lives again.
Sure.
You know, like it makes sense. So, like I said, I can see both sides, and I don't necessarily think one is more valid than the other, except that maybe Egwene's motivation is more out of selfishness and you know, wanting to take care of them, whereas Pairen's motivation is wanting to take care of others. So it's a little bit more noble. But they're both valid sides.
Right. In this chapter, we get our first reference to folk songs having the same tune, but different names and lyrics across regions.
Right.
So, like, the first time I read The Wheel of Time, especially in The Eye of the World, I did not have a lot of exposure to folk music at all. Years later, having played guitar in a couple of bands that did traditional folk music and drinking songs and such, I still marvel at how many songs are the same song but with different lyrics.
Yeah, totally.
Anyone who's ever been in an Irish pub knows exactly what I'm talking about. And even our country's national anthem is set to music that originally was about sex and drinking.
Yeah.
Go look it up. It'll be funny.
It's true.
So the music stays the same, but the words change. And the boys come to this realization over the next few books. And it's kind of cool to me because I have a similar experience of walking in their feet.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
So about the dancing girls.
Ah, yes.
This is the first time Pairen sees women who are comfortable expressing their sexuality. Mm-hmm. And he finds it a little overwhelming. In the Two Rivers, they're more conservative. So this open, like, sensual nature that the girls and the women have with the dancing is completely foreign to Pairen. And it put him in overdrive. Like, it's adorable.
Yeah.
Like, I actually forgot how many characters have a sexual awakening in this series. Mm-hmm. It's like spring awakening up in here.
So the Two Rivers people are not the most puritanical people in Randland.
No.
But they come close.
Yeah.
And
they're conservative.
So even Elias takes a poke at Pairen's uncomfortableness over the belly dancing.
Yeah.
And Pairen's response is to just kind of look away if he can, but not call them into question or or speak out against the dancing or anything. He just kind of accepts it.
Yeah.
Until Egwene starts to learn the dance and draws Aram's attention. Then Pairen goes all over protective brother.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating because, so the thing is, Pairen never sees Egwene as a potential romantic partner.
Right.
Their relationship is completely platonic. So he hates Aram because Aram is an eggplant emoji.
Yes, absolutely.
But he isn't jealous of him as like a romantic rival. So he doesn't approve of Egwene's behavior. And it's definitely doing like a big brother thing. But that's not his job.
Right.
You know, like, first of all, he's not Egwene's brother. He's not any relation to her whatsoever.
Right.
He's a friend. And Egwene is a big girl now. She can make her own choices. So, like, yes, Pairen wants to, quote unquote, protect Egwene from getting too involved with Aram and getting, like, too far under the spell of the traveling people. Mm-hmm. But it's not his job, and he needs to back off.
Well, and I think another part of it, because he definitely does need to back off, but I think another part of this too is that Pairen loves the two rivers. I mean, he
does.
That way of life. He doesn't want it to change, and the world's changing all over the place. And here's Egwene becoming something completely different. And so I think there's also a bit of that there too. But
Definitely.
Absolutely, he is completely out of line trying to force any of that on her, because that's
right. Well, and like, so as her friend, it's totally valid for him to express his concern.
Right.
You know, he can approach and be like, hey, Eggs, like, seriously, this might not be the best idea. Maybe slow down a little and, like, think about it. And that's valid. But he approaches, like, he confronts her. The way he does it is what the problem is. Because he's, like, calling her down, basically. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she challenges him is right back, like, you know, you don't approve of me being an Aes Sedai either, so which is it, bro? You know, I don't know. It's the way he does it. He acts as if he has some right to control over her life, you know?
Right.
Like he has some sort of authority.
And
he doesn't, you know? Like he has no control over her. He's just a friend to her, and he needs to back down a little.
I agree. So Pairen takes a very passive-aggressive stance and starts displaying his axe everywhere he goes. Even if it makes him cold to have his cloak thrown back so it can show it instead of stay warm, he's got it out. Yeah,
he's kind of an eggplant emoji here, too.
Yeah, very, very much so. And it's interesting because the one thing that gives him pause to this behavior is Elias. And we get this little bit that says, Elias looked quizzically at the weapon hanging heavily at his side and grinned at him, those yellow eyes seeming to read his mind. That almost made him cover the axe. Almost. He knows that there's something wrong with Elias's worldview, the same as he does not agree with the worldview of the traveling people. But openly carrying an axe around and making people feel uncomfortable? That's just rude.
Yeah, totally.
In summary, Pairen's irritated at the way of the leaf, Egwene is irritated by Pairen, Elias is irritated by people in general, and the wolves are irritated by the presence of the dogs. Yes, this is a Pairen chapter full of broodiness.
Emo Pairen strikes again.
Dum bum bum.
But okay, so the sad part is that Pairen is completely right.
Yeah.
Like his nightmares of the camp being attacked are completely true. Mm-hmm. This exact thing happens in the Two Rivers in Book 4. So, I mean, as much as he's broody and complaining and grumpy, I mean, you have to give him credit because he is right.
Everything he's afraid of actually comes true.
Yeah.
Just later down the line.
Yeah.
Pairen's Beelzebub dream is much more straightforward than Rand's. Beelzebub acknowledges that the wolf is something that has stood as an obstacle to him in the past, which confirms that wolves are the good guys. Yay! He also confirms that he is not sure which of the boys is, quote-unquote, the one. And then wakes Pairen up by putting a raven through his eye. This still creeps me out. all these rereads later. Like that.
Oh, yeah. Like, Pairen's Bellsman dream is extremely disturbing to me.
Yeah.
More so than the previous dreams. Like, burning the wolf.
Yeah.
And then the raven beak piercing his eye. It's super messed up. And no, I don't like it. No, thank you. Oh, no.
When Rain says that they are leaving and will possibly find a steading to stay in, he makes this statement, besides, even Ogier have pots and things to mend. So let me get this straight. The Ogier are creators of some of the most amazing craftsmanship in the world. Mm-hmm. And yet the traveling people are still able to mend their pots so well that they'll pay for it. What do these traveling people do?
I don't know, but apparently it's very effective.
Do you think Pairen is right in his assumption that Ilya was relieved to see them go because she thought Aram would have left the group to go with Egwene? Or was it something else? Like maybe she had been thinking Egwene would stay with them? I feel I'm missing something here.
Yeah, I think Ela was relieved to see them go. She doesn't like Elias at all. And
No.
she can see that Pairen will never choose the way. She probably hoped that Egwene would stay, not just as another string to tie Aram to the Tuatha on, but to get her away from these two violent men.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, I'm sure she felt sad for Egwene that she made the choice to leave, but she was relieved that Aram didn't follow Egwene. You know, like, we know that his beliefs are tenuous, and she was already worried about him.
Right.
So if Egwene was never going to choose the way of the leaf, then it would be a relief to Ela to have her gone before Aram could grow too close to her that he couldn't give her up.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, like, that's what I think that relief was about.
I know we said this last week, but the ceremony, the parting ceremony here is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It's very reminiscent of an Episcopal or maybe a Lutheran benediction at the end of a church service. Mm-hmm. And it carries this sense of somberness and weight to it that I love.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to kind of just read this bit.
Okay.
You came in peace, Rain intoned, bowing formally, hands to his chest. Depart now in peace. Always will our fires welcome you in peace. The way of the leaf is peace. Peace be on you always, Elias replied, and on all the people. He hesitated and then added, I will find the song, or another will find the song. But the song will be sung, this year or in a year to come. As it once was, so shall it be again. World without end. And then, of course, the response to the Tuatha I'll have is world without end 3 times. Mm-hmm. So I just love the simpleness of this, but it's just really beautiful.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that Elias says to Rain is, peace be on you, to which Rain responds, and on you.
Yeah, it is very reminiscent of, like, high church
liturgy.
Yeah. Thank you. That's the word I couldn't think of. Like liturgical call and response type stuff. And it is beautiful. So Elias including that part about the song in the farewell ceremony, it was a peace offering. He does not agree with the way of the leaf, and they know it. But by saying that ritual part about the song, he's basically saying, I hope that this dream that you have comes true.
Right.
You know, I wish for you the peace that you're seeking. And it was just a really nice gesture, you know?
Yeah.
Like, as gruff as Elias is and as awkward and unhappy he is around other people, he is essentially a good person on the inside.
Yeah.
And, I mean, these people just showed him hospitality. They let them stay there. They fed them. You know, they welcomed them. And Elias isn't blind to that. So, you know, he gives a little of himself back. And I just really appreciate that that's in there.
It's a great gesture.
Yeah. So the wolves tell Elias about Pairen's dream and explain that Baalsman could only do that because Pairen hasn't accepted them. I mean, the burning of the wolf and all that. The wolves tell Pairen straight out here that he will only be complete when he accepts. And what is his response? To shut them out of his head because Pairen is dumb.
Yeah.
I love Pairen. I do. I really love Pairen. But my God, man, come on. Get your shit together.
Right? Jeez. Okay, so probably my favorite exchange Egwene ever has with any other character is in this chapter.
Okay.
Pairen asks what she and Ilya were talking about in their private talks, and she tells him that she was giving Egwene advice on being a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And his response is, advice? No one tells us how to be men. We just are. And Egwene's retort is, that is probably why you make such a bad job of it. And then Elias just starts laughing out loud at both of them. I just love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, Pairen's wrong. Like, you know
Pairen's absolutely wrong.
That Tam Thor and Harl Lewin and even possibly Bran Alvear were throwing little nuggets of wisdom at these boys their entire lives.
Yeah.
He just didn't know enough to listen.
Exactly. So onwards to chapter 28, which is called Footprints in the Air, and the icon is Moiraine's staff.
Nynaeve, Moiraine, and Lan ride up to Whitebridge, and they are not a merry group of travelers. Nynaeve is furious with the Aes Sedai for her evasiveness and outer calm. She also resents Moiraine's insistence that Nynaeve be trained in the White Tower. Nynaeve can't help but wonder what a wisdom could do with the One Power, but stamps the thought down as quickly as she can. She wishes to be rid of Moiraine and thinks Lan would be better by himself. But even the warder is getting under her skin with his silent stares. Nynaeve can tell that all three of them can feel the tension in the air, but now that she knows it has to do with the One Power, she can't bring herself to listen to the wind to find out more. When she asks, Lan says it's nothing and that she should go back home where it's safe. But Moiraine contradicts him, saying that Nynaeve is part of the pattern. She explains that the Dark One is watching and getting stronger. When they ride into Whitebridge proper, they see that trouble is afoot, and we get the aftermath of chapter 26. Buildings are burned and the people are scared. When Moiraine talks to them, they lie and say there was no trouble at all. When pressed, they come up with dozens of different stories from a man who could channel to a riot of dark friends. They hear about a boat that had to flee before it was stormed by an angry mob, and that a Gleeman may have been on board. They eat in the same inn the boys were at, and Moiraine can sense that they had been there a day or two ago. Nynaeve wants to keep chasing them, thinking that if they're only a day or so behind, then they can catch up. Moiraine would rather go after the one who still has his coin, because she can be sure of his location, whereas she isn't sure what direction these two may have gone. She tells Nynaeve that they will eventually remember Caemlyn, and that's where she will find them. Nynaeve asks after Egwene, and Moiraine responds that she hopes to find her because she does not easily give up young women with that much ability once she's found them. This leaves Nynaeve cold, wondering if she is also someone Moiraine won't give up.
Nynaeve, Moiraine, and Lan make up the road trip from hell.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Worst traveling companions ever.
Yeah, for sure. So I get that it's frustrating to have Nynaeve constantly questioning everything that she does. But would it kill Moiraine to give a straight answer at least once? Like, perhaps Nynaeve wouldn't be so argumentative if she didn't feel that Moiraine was lying to her and keeping everything secret.
Right.
I mean, just a theory, but Moiraine isn't helping. Like, she may not be starting the trouble, but she's not helping the situation.
No, she's not. So this quote from the chapter sums the whole experience up nicely. If it was a duel, she had not managed to score once, and Moiraine did not seem to realize she was in a fight. Poor Nynaeve.
That actually sums up a lot of Nynaeve's interactions with people.
You're thinking through the rest of the series. This is, yeah.
Yeah, I love her, but she makes things so difficult. Moiraine interrupts one of Nynaeve's many diatribes with this quote. Part of the training you will receive in Tar Valon wisdom will teach you to control your temper. You can do nothing with the One Power when emotion rules your mind. Nope. That may have been true in the past, but Nynaeve is a new kind of Aes Sedai.
Check in with us in a few books.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just thought that was super funny.
Nynaeve, like Pairen, is resisting her new reality.
Yeah.
She knows that something is going on and that she should be listening to the wind. But she rejects it because she now knows that the power, that listening to the wind is part of the power. And she wants nothing to do with the power.
Yeah.
Moraine starts talking to people in the streets, and we get a surprised response from Nynaeve. She did not ask questions. She gave sympathy, and to Nynaeve's surprise, it appeared genuine. Part of Nynaeve's journey is getting to a place where she accepts that Moraine, and Aes Sedai in general, are not monsters just because they wield the power. And it's moments like this that help her see the humanity in Moraine and helps plant seeds of her ability to accept the power as a tool, not as evil.
Right. So we find out that Bail Domon was chased out of Whitebridge, barely escaping the mob.
This is going to be a running gag.
Of him, yeah,
Bail
you're right. That's right.
Bail Domon nearly escapes with his ship and his crew from yet another. Wow, yeah.
Okay. This chapter is pretty straightforward. It's about Nynaeve's animosity towards Moraine, her inner turmoil as she grapples with the knowledge that she can channel, and letting us know what destruction Rand and Mat left behind them as they fled Whitebridge. That's about it.
Yeah.
So let's revisit the coin bond for a minute.
Okay.
I don't understand the magic that Moraine is using here.
All right.
Like, okay, so I understand that the coin bond, or more accurately, the finder weave, which is, I guess, what it's officially called,
Okay.
formed a link between her and the boys while they still have their coins. But now that Rand and Mat have been without their coins for at least a week,
Yeah.
what is this trace that she's reading in the room? Like, how does that work? With what we learn about the power and the weaves, like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
So in Knife of Dreams, in chapter 16, Elaine lays the finder weave on a cut purse that she recruits to spy for her. And she describes it as somewhat akin to the same weave that's the water bond, though much less complex. And that the finder is attuned to the one who weaves it. And if the person loses that object, the channeler can no longer find them. So I don't know where this trace Moraine is reading is coming from. Like, I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe it's one of those things that because this is the first book, the rules of channeling weren't worked out completely. So
Maybe.
I mean, that's probably what's going on here. But I don't get it. Do you understand?
I don't have any good. I have a couple of opinions, but they're not very good ones. So one could be the quote unquote trace that she senses could be coming from Mat's dagger. I mean, that is a kind of evil she could trace, but the problem with that is...
she doesn't know about that.
Exactly. She doesn't know that Mat has a dagger, so why would she be tracing something dark like that to go after them?
Yeah.
So again, I said it's a bad idea. Another bad idea is Rand may have some kind of resonance because he's a male channeler. And she could be like just casting that out, not knowing whether it was Mat or Rand. Maybe.
Right.
Again, I don't have any evidence for that.
I'm trying to remember if male and female channelers can sense each other. Like, we know that female channelers can sense other female channelers.
Right.
And male channelers can sense other male channelers. But if they're not actually holding the power, can male and female channelers recognize each other?
I don't. And here, again, is why I think it's a bad idea and it falls apart. We know later on that Aes Sedai can sense residues of weaves. So if Rand had been channeling, which he wasn't, if Rand had been channeling, she might have been able to sense that they were there because of any residues of weaves that have been left behind.
But they can't sense residue of weaves that people from the other sex can do.
Oh, yeah, that's
only
right. They can
same
only
sex.
it's only the same channel source.
Yeah.
Because men and women don't wield the same magic,
Yeah, and
right?
Rand wasn't channeling, so...
Yeah, so again, I don't have good ideas. I just have some vague ideas.
Okay, because, I mean, the finder weave would let her know that the boys are still alive.
Right.
Even if they don't have their coins. She would know if they died.
Right.
So that makes sense to me, that she knows that they're still alive somewhere. But this whole trace thing, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, because the finder weave wasn't woven in Whitebridge. It was woven in Two Rivers. What?
Maybe the trace that she senses the Myrddraal, who is
she's tracking the Myrddraal, you think?
Yeah. Well, no, then that doesn't. No, I honestly, I don't know. So there's 3 bad ideas for you. I honestly,
We're gonna
don't
rule
know.
all 3 of those out.
Yeah.
Okay, you
well, there's
guys,
that.
tell us what your theories are, because obviously we're stumped. So let us know what this trace is, what is happening, make this make sense, or is it just because it's the first book and the rules weren't established? Let us know what your thoughts are.
Yay for plot devices.
Yay!
And that ends chapters 26, 27, and 28 of The Eye of the World. Join us next week when we discuss chapters 29 and 30, where Pairen and Egwene are totally screwed and in a lot of trouble.
For sure. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru. And happy Halloween again, you guys. Have a good holiday and stay safe.
We'll see you again next week. Make sure that you rate and subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Maybe leave us a positive review. It really helps us out, brings us up to the top of the search results and for the related stuff. You can tweet us at Pod-Thru or email us at watpodthru@gmail.com. Tell us your thoughts on anything we covered today, your theories, anything in response. Thank you to everyone who's already sent your feedback, and we love to hear from you.
That's WOTPODTHRU@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody, and we hope the wheel weaves you in our direction again soon.